All right, so today we're going to dive into a little different narrative here, and that is maybe the aspect of digital gold and what that might look like. Obviously, with gold nearing its all-time high, a lot of people in the market are looking at it as a potential asset class. How does it compare up against Bitcoin? We'll take a little bit of a look at that and break this down for you guys. So my name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. If you're new to our channel, maybe you found this because you're thinking of investing in gold or something of that nature. One thing that we do here is we're really more of a tech blockchain channel, but we do look at technology as it implements across different digital or asset classes. And that's where this show really shines, I think. So hopefully this will help you guys understand a little bit of where it's going. And we'll dive in deep. Let's go into our first sponsor, and that is, well, our only sponsor on this one, is iTrust Capital. And iTrust Capital is a great place to actually buy gold and silver. You can get into gold and silver, and you can do it pretty much with spot trades, do a lot of things within the IRA, and hold it long term. This is one of the spots that I think a lot of our viewers and listeners utilize for long-term IRA exposure out there when it comes to Bitcoin, digital assets, as well as gold and silver. A couple of things you can do is transfer your existing IRA or start a new one. And then, of course, you can also roll over your 401k, TSP 401 or 403b, all those kind of cool things, and start your own crypto IRA, but have the option to go into gold. Use our code down below. That will get you a $100 funding reward, and boom, you're in. Helps the channel out. Let's get into a couple of things here. I want to go over to this first tweet, and this is getting into a project or a platform called Tether Gold. And Tether Gold is very interesting, and we'll kind of explain what it is, how it works, but its official gold just priced past $2,000 mark. Join the gold rush and learn more about Tether Gold, trading under XAUT. It's just like gold, but with all the benefits of blockchain token. And really, when you think about it, and I think I'm going to play a little video here in a minute, it really is just tokenized gold. In essence, they're using gold as the reserve for the token, which I think, some people would look at that and say, well, this is very good because it creates a lot of benefits for that. And if you look at a couple of points that they're making right here on the block, tokenized gold tops 1 billion market cap amid banking crisis. Again, this is a big reason. The quick take's pretty simple. Market cap for tokenized gold is now returning to about $1 billion. Pax Gold and Tether Gold are the two players that remain very close competitors out there. And then concerns over a Western banking crisis are pushing the gold price up. And this, I think, is the thing that we've continued to watch over the past few weeks. It's also what is pushing the price of Bitcoin closing in on 30,000. It's pushing ETH to almost 2,000. A lot of these, and these are all run prices. Many people might look at this and say we're in the middle of a pre-bull run and where it might play out. If you look at a couple of charts here, this is longer term trends. This is looking at Bitcoin gold's ratio continuing to climb all the way back into they really started around 2015, 17, right there. This is Bitcoin gold ratio on a linear scale, just so you kind of see where it relationship to the highs back in 2021 for Bitcoin, which was that bull run. Not necessarily the same kind of thing painting out for gold in that same period of time, but it may be a different play coming into this market now. And if you're looking at diversifying assets, you're looking at some different alternatives out there, maybe this is one of those that could make sense for you. We don't do financial advice, but we look at research and data, and we study a little bit of this. We're actually thinking about putting some of these digital gold assets into our CPI. Reason is our CPI tracks consumer sentiment data. And if we see, especially around gold, there's a lot of sentiment data around gold because it's such a passionate investment class, and it's almost an $11 trillion market, I think $12 trillion market now. So it definitely gets a lot of this. Listen to this clip. This is just kind of explaining what Tether Gold is, so to give you guys kind of a rundown.
The metal of the gods, tears of the sun, El Dorado. It's been called many things. You can use it as a store of value to diversify your assets, fight inflation, invest with safety. We're talking about gold. We've now created a new way to access it. Tether Gold. It's smart and efficient, easy to store, transport, and divide. Weightless and more flexible than ever, you can transfer it 24/7 enjoying the benefits of a blockchain token with the safety of the most precious metal there is. It's not just gold, it's better. It's Tether Gold. Gold made easy.
Well, at least they got a good slogan there, gold
Tether
made
Gold
easy, which I like. This is kind of a breakdown of it. This is the website, goes into the market cap right there. What is actually in the reserve, which you have a 611. Let me zoom up on that a little bit for you guys. 611 gold bars, kilograms right there at 7,600. And you can learn a lot about it through the white paper. A couple other elements in here, people kind of going against the idea of using it as a hedge. And I mean, they do a good job here of explaining it. I don't know. I'm interested. I would say the one challenge that this has is the access point. And that's something that, when you look at the gold market and the ability to get into this, into almost any exchange out there, and what I'm talking about is just a traditional trading exchange, gold access is very easy, and you can do it through ETFs, all that kind of stuff. Getting to Tether Gold, much more difficult. Here's just the list of some of the platforms and exchanges you can get in. And I mean, most of these are not even US based. I mean, you can get into OKX, I guess, but that's not OKCoin. You can do it and store it into your ledger. BitGet is more international. Huobi is also international. Gate.io, not one that I use or recommend. But you can kind of see there's a lot of limitations there. So that's an interesting thing. But the fact that they're using reserves against this is intriguing. Now, their competitor out here is Paxos, and this is PAXG. This one's been around. This is kind of an OG. It's been around in the space for a long time. Again, I don't know if you guys are investing in these kind of things, but if you're investing in gold, or maybe you're looking at gold as a digital investment, is this the play for you to go? And I think some people are kind of weighing those scenarios out right now, especially as we see the potential of where the dollar may end up running a little bit here as we start to see a lot of pressure, more people going into cash going into money markets, those kind of things. That's really what is driving a lot of these kind of ecosystem shifts. It's also why I think we're going to be seeing maybe a slower rate of gold ascension because of the fact that Bitcoin is so widely available and so easily used. And now it's finally getting to at least some sort of critical mass out there in terms of acceptance. Just to give you an example here, gold ownership has been difficult until the days of crypto. There's a few things here. This features in. You embed the legal battle to specific allocations of authenticated physical gold into a digital token. This creates kind of an innovative class of products, and it's kind of the best of three worlds is what they're talking about there. Traditional finance assets such as ETFs, which is an easy way to get in. Transactional utility of a digital token. Before gold-backed stablecoins, the only real largest investors could avoid making stark trade-offs between 1 and 2. One was that everybody's direct exposure on the price of physical gold, but based on a cost. So, it has changed the dynamic of how gold could be played, especially on a global scale. And just think about outside the US. Our show is still over 50% international. So I'd love to get you guys' feedback. Are you investing in something like a digital gold? Drop down in the comments below. I'd love to kind of get your feedback there. Market cap of, or the market impact of democratizing physical gold ownership. There's a lot of benefits to this on gold-backed stablecoins. Some people are looking at this as, really kind of the holy grail of how gold might be used. And further into it, there's a whole bunch here around the advantages of both, the standpoints and use cases of where gold is going. I'll get into some of these things too into this. I want to drop into a couple of the kind of thing that could really play into this is the digital aspect. This is going to be brokerages offering, after hours trading. This is the typical 24/7 that we see in the crypto markets. Other things around that you're going to see, it enables investors to react quickly. More volatility means traders find better prices. Again, these are all crypto characteristics. It's a little bit more difficult to transact after hours right now. There are fewer investors. That's the situation with trading after hours. Spread also is usually a bit of a problem. And then influential investors may not be able to be active after hours as well. So if you do have, your big whale, those kind of things are somewhat limited there. So there's some downside to it. And if you just look at Tether Gold, I think this kind of tells the tale right now in terms of its popularity, is it's just not available at a lot of places. This is the market spot where you can do spot trades on XAUT. So if you are trading this, where are you trading it? And if you're looking at getting into digital gold, is this something that if this got into a traditional exchange like maybe a Coinbase or a Kraken, I think, does Kraken even offer this? No, it looks like it's OKX, Gate.io, UOB, yep. Or someone like that here, US-based, a Gemini, would you even go into this as a potential alternative to hedge against Bitcoin or to hedge against general assets? Or are you all in on the king of digital assets in Bitcoin? Here's kind of a nice little chart. This is visualizing 30 years of central bank gold demand. And there's some things here that are kind of interesting. Let me kind of highlight in on this. Of net sales versus net purchases, you can go all the way back here to 1992 versus what we've seen here recently, which has been an absolute increase in acquisition of gold from central banks and also foreign exchange reserves, etc. And they're getting into a place now, I think, that are going to be very interesting, because now you're getting into sovereign states that are looking at doing this. Here was a headline coming from Fox. Russia, China may also be preparing a new gold-backed currency. But this is, right now, a guy talking about.
Chairman, you might remember,
here's Brock Pierce. He's talking a little bit about really selling the Bitcoin value against this. But the whole point is that if they get into the U.S. dollar being kind of the safest currency, or do we see an international move here from alternative sovereign nations going into gold as a reserve? Remember, prior to Bretton Woods, this was the gold was the standard. It was the reserve currency until we saw the petrodollar to begin. And maybe we start to see a shift in that. This is something we talk about often. I think the more interesting fact is that there's a lot of pressure coming from so many different places in terms of assets. There's a lot more diversity out there now. Digital assets have really kind of opened up the bandwidth of where investors can go and have liquidity and be able to really do trades 24/7 globally, especially with Bitcoin and ETH. Those really, I think, change the dynamic of how gold might look going in the future. Here was the Tether Gold guy saying it's not a competition with Bitcoin. It's competing with fiat. And listen to what they said. This is I think there was still when he was over at Kitco. Let me get this.
A better store of value, which is a better, I guess, safe haven protection asset, which is a better... is Bitcoin actually digital gold is another way to phrase the question. Where do you stand on this debate?
So I love this question because I debated it.
All right, we lost some audio there, guys. Sorry about that. Basically, he went on to say that he was debating this issue of, is it better than Bitcoin? His goal, or his idea, this being Tether Gold, is that it's really a better option to what's happening inside of fiat. And that's the real question: is fiat the not necessarily the safe haven for you? Are you looking for something like gold when it's trading right now at over $2,000, getting ready to break into its all-time high? And if it does, many people are looking at gold right now, possibly going to 3K. If it rolls up to 3K over the next year or maybe 24 months, is that more of a long-term asset for you? Because imagine what that kind of growth would be against, say, your money market. So there's some definite opportunities here going in the future. And there is an argument for utility. And, top 5 uses of gold. I mean, the biggest one, I think, obviously, it's one of the most used and coveted metals out there. But I think the biggest, obviously, is the technology aspect. It's used a lot within circuitry. And that will continue to be a huge pull on gold and continue to keep it at the top of precious metals in terms of value. And I think that's what drives it. But I think the other factor that's playing into this is all of the macro pressure that's happening from the economy, and mainly people looking at an exodus of the US dollar. Now, granted, some of it's coming out of US deposits and they're going into money market funds, which is really into brokerage accounts. I had a conversation earlier this week with another trader about this very issue, is that we're seeing more and more bank dollars moving into money market funds, which are usually managed and operated by traders or exchanges. That's one angle. The other angle is we could see some of that seeping off into Bitcoin and others going into gold, because trying to hedge your bet on where the US dollar might land. If you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin continues to fly, being the digital gold. And look at just in general, this is Bitcoin ordinals, which is getting back into the utility, because this is the argument that many people will make, is Bitcoin has no utility other than, hey, it's a store of value. But in reality, ordinals has kind of changed that entire situation and perspective. I think we'll probably have Bitcoiners out there that would disagree with that, but the fact that we see almost 1 million inscriptions now to date, and you can kind of see the charts right here. I'll just kind of zoom in on this, just Bitcoin ordinals inscriptions since they began. Remember, this only happened in early February. Look at the explosion we've seen right here. All this again was on Stacks, so you guys know that we track Stacks over in the CPI. Make sure and drop some questions in on the side. We'll try to get to some of those. But the number one thing you can do right now, smash the like button. It is one of the things that helps us get our channel out there, and it helps others kind of understand how to get into and understand this shift in technology and how investing and technology have intersected now. And this is really what we talk about here on the channel. This is an interesting statement from Peter Schiff. I mean, we can't have a gold topic without having Schiff on here. So let's listen to what Peter had to say.
Price is really relevant to the discussion. I mean, sure, Bitcoin has gone up more than gold during that time frame. It's gone up more than a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that Bitcoin, in any way compares to those other assets that didn't have the same type of price appreciation. In fact, if price appreciation is your barometer, well then Ethereum is way better than Bitcoin. I mean, since we met last, we're together, Ethereum has gone up a lot more than Bitcoin. In fact, I think since Ethereum was first started 6 years ago, I think if you just sold all your Bitcoin and just put it all into Ether, you'd have more money today. So you can't just say, oh, whatever goes up the most is the best, or you're going to have to change the name of your podcast to what Ether did.
Yeah, so he's a little sensitive there, of course, with the price of gold and in comparison to the price of Bitcoin and where it's gold and gone over the past few years. I think the argument here, guys, is when you look at the diversity and you look at the market pressures from macro, you look at the market pressures from global economies that are really starting to move things around, it changes the narrative a little bit. And what I mean by that is that there is a need for diversity of assets. And I think this is something that a lot of people are starting to pay attention to. We've already seen this in the fact that many people now may not necessarily have the same faith in the banking system that they had 6 weeks ago. That in itself may never change again. Same thing goes for Bitcoin and some digital assets. Is after the debacle of FTX and Celsius and Voyager and etc., people don't have the faith in that. So you only have what's left, and I believe that to be Bitcoin, ETH, and a handful of altcoins that will most likely make some pretty significant moves. So that's really kind of the play here, is whether you go into digital assets, whether you go into gold, whether it's through ETFs or other kind of investment instruments, or you look at something like this. I don't necessarily think this is the answer, but maybe it's a play if you're very, very, driven into kind of the future of blockchain being utilized to transact things like this, which are using and holding reserves like gold. Now, one thing to be aware with Bitcoin is here in the United States, as you know, we talk about this on the channel often, there is a crush on crypto right now. We are seeing more and more limitations. This coming in from Texas, which is taking steps to cutting their incentives for Bitcoin miners. It doesn't mean they're banning Bitcoin mining. That's not the headline. But they used to have a fairly significant incentive program. That is now looking to be cut. Now, don't read too much into that, because incentives are often cut after drawing in an industry. This is something that's done in the tech industry. It's something done in the food industry, farming, ag, you name it. Doesn't matter. Typically, the idea is give the benefits, and then as they come in, they start to contribute. Now the benefits go away. That's, I think, where Texas is. Now, that being said, the alternative to that is places like North Carolina. They're actually looking at full-on bans. And this could be a problem as we start to see certain states, sovereign states, looking more and more into this Bitcoin mining, no Bitcoin mining kind of scenario, and whether that narrative pushes more and more tech offshore, which is the argument I make often around all of these situations, is that this is all going to be related to technology in the future, including the digital dollar and many things around that, whether it's CBDCs, et cetera. All of this is going to slowly make a march into digital, including, I think, gold. Some point we're going to see gold tokenized at some point by a reputable company or firm or entity, and that in itself, whether they use it as a reserve, because remember, if you had a gold standard, you created a digital CBDC, tied it to gold as a full 100% liquid reserve, now you're talking pre-Bretton Woods stuff, but you're only doing it in the era of Bitcoin and blockchain. Big scenario. All right, just to give you guys a quick rundown here, Bitcoin, let's go over here and take a look at the charts. Bitcoin's still holding on the 28. ETH, of course, has been moving up, taking another run at over 1900 now at 1908. Looks like it's got a wick moving right into the mid-19s right there. A couple others that we've talked about. If you guys missed our altcoin show, make sure and jump in on that one. That's where we break down a lot of the different kinds of assets out there. If you look at the Dixie right now, it is coming down a little bit. So again, more of this means bleeding into other alternative assets as people going into the dollar. So down a little bit overall. This is on the daily. Going to kind of see where this began back here in early March. We saw this track down. This is pretty much flipping into Bitcoin, but also a lot of this was the issue of the big bank problems that existed out there. And we got to show a gold chart. So let me pull that up real quick. Here's the gold chart just to show you guys. This is nearing a all-time high. We've seen this a couple of times in the past 10 years. Right there is the high of 2020. This was the August of 2020 after COVID was resurrected, and we saw it plunge and then immediately recover. That was at 2073. We saw another one clip in here in March of 22 last year, 2070, and gold right now is pushing 2022. I know we've got a poll out there, and then we'll take some questions, try to get into some of those things. All right, what will be utilized more? Tokenized gold for retail payments, Bitcoin for retail payments, or Ethereum? What? This is amazing that this is such a split poll here. That's intriguing to me. I think that also kind of hits home, is that there's so many alternatives. I was talking about that earlier. The alternatives there in the marketplace. The market wins when those kind of things exist, when you have a lot of people believe in individual asset classes and they're willing to put their money and their mouths behind it. I think that's a big telling thing. All right, a couple of questions in here. Gold is already tokenized in the way of ETFs. That is true. Very good point. The tokenization, though, of ETFs is being able to hold it in your own wallet, being able to transfer it at lightning speed, being able to move it around, as in what you can do with a blockchain. I think the other aspect, if you could ever hold a reserve asset in your wallet, like a Tether Gold or a PAXG, but maybe a little bit more reputable, at least something that maybe would, at some point, maybe something plays out of what's going to happen in the exchanges. And when I look at brokerages and what's happening with Fidelity, what that might look like in the future, there's a lot of new financial assets and instruments that are going to be coming to market in the next couple of years. Be ready. Peter Schiff, highly incentivized to curb Bitcoin. Of course he is. Digital gold, like Bitcoin, has less pollution than mining gold out of the ground. That is true. Better backed by gold than the digital. Yeah, for sure. Karenovac says, not the biggest fan of Bitcoin, but I'm also all for everything to be tokenized. Good for you. That's my way. That's the blockchain way. If gold hits 4K an ounce, we will destroy Mother Earth mining it. That's probably true, is that when you see that kind of demand, we showed that one story where people were lined up selling their gold trinkets and assets because we were seeing these massive pushes. So the demand for hitting it at the top is a huge stress on the environmental aspect. And I think in general, I think on what it takes to mine gold and get to it. Gold price already too hot. Don't want to buy at this price. I'm kind of in agreement with that. But at the same time, you could also say the same thing about Bitcoin right now. And I know a lot of people, including Michael Saylor, who just bought Bitcoin at 28K. So you can play that both ways. Gold is manipulated. I think all markets are manipulated to a certain extent. Not easy to about gold reserves. Can you claim your gold? No. But if we get to tokenized assets, which I think tokenization will happen across everything, that changes the dynamic of what that might look like. Could you imagine holding your stocks in your ledger or something like that? Gold looking like it's already for a multi-year run. It could be, and that's the question is when you look at where Bitcoin is, and that's why I showed you guys the ratio there of how it was performing with Bitcoin. It has a lot of similarities. The biggest similarity I think that a lot of people need to pay attention to is the situation of what's happening right here. And that is the global aspect of where all of this is going. If we continue to see sovereign nations padding their treasuries with gold, and we look at potential trading partners that are the size of Saudi Arabia, China, Russia, Pakistan, the BRICS, it changes everything because the dynamic and need for the US dollar begins to change with it. So pay attention out there, guys. We continue to bring on a lot of analysts that will be breaking this down. We're going to have more analysts on. We've got some Bitcoiners coming on the show. We've got a full array of stuff for you guys, so make sure and stick around on all that. If you're not a subscriber to our channel right now, jump in. I think you might enjoy it because we do give an array of opinions. We don't really lock in on Bitcoin or lock in on altcoins. We try to make it something that people can really learn, across the market, understand macroeconomics, understand technology, how it applies to all this. Hopefully that will help you out. If you're not part of our Diamond Circle, jump in. It's very easy. Just click the link down below. And of course, if you want to catch me, it's out there on Twitter, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.